Good evening. Welcome to the 8th lecture of this lecture series, Physics with Partha. In our previous classes, we have saw chapter number 23 and 24 of our textbook Concept of Physics. So there we have learnt about heat and temperature, where we talked about notion of heat and temperature and measurement of temperature, then thermal expansion and related equations. In kinetic theory of gases, we learnt different postulates of KTG, then different laws and phase transition, where we can see in the attached picture here the distinct isolation between triple point, critical point, different phases like solid, liquid, vapor, gaseous phase, and so on and so forth. So here in this chapter, which is calorimetry, we are going to cover heat as an energy, units of heat, then principle of calorimetry, specific heat capacity, molar heat capacity, water equivalent, determination of specific heat capacity. Okay, mostly we are going to talk about the energetic involvement, the measurement of those energetic involvement when we are going to change a phase from solid to liquid, liquid to gas, or vice versa. Okay, let's talk about heat as a form of energy. Here in the left hand side picture, we can see that body A and body B are kept at different temperature. When T1 greater than T2, then heat will flow from body A to body B. Then after some time, we see that both bodies have reached the same temperature, and then the heat flow stops. So the definition is heat is the energy being transported between the two bodies or between the adjacent part of a body caused by temperature difference. So basically this is the energy in transit whenever there is temperature difference is existing. Now once the temperature difference is overcome or transfer is over, the energy has been reflected in the form of increase or decrease in internal energy. So heat is meaningful only when energy is in transit. So let's talk about the unit of heat. The SI unit of heat is joule. So which is also the unit of energy. So same as the unit of energy. Now the other units are calorie. The calorie is defined as the amount of heat needed to increase the temperature of water. Exactly 1 gram of water from 14.5 degrees centigrade to 15.5 degrees centigrade. That is the energy needed to increase the temperature of water by 1 degree centigrade. But here in the box we have written why this exact temperature range is written. That is why 14.5 degrees centigrade to 15.5 degrees centigrade. The answer for it is the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. So this depends upon whatever temperature we are working at. That means if we are working at 30 degrees centigrade or we are working at 70 degrees centigrade, then the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature by 1 degree centigrade changes slightly. That is why here exactly we have defined 14.5 to 15.5 degrees centigrade. Then we can see the conversion among those units. 1 calorie is equal to 4.186 joule and 1 kilocalorie is 1000 calorie. Okay. Let's talk about principle of calorimetry. So this states that objects at different temperature are made to come in contact with each other in the calorimeter. So what is a calorimeter? A calorimeter is a typical copper vessel with a stirrer which is kept in a wooden box to isolate it thermally from the surroundings. And a thermometer is used to measure the temperature of the calorimeter and the contents. Now when heat is exchanged between the objects as well as with the calorimeter, if we neglect any heat exchange with the surrounding, then principle of calorimetry states that the total amount of heat given by the objects equal to the total heat received by the cold objects, which is nothing but the form of conservation of energy. Now let's talk about specific heat capacity. So here in the picture we can see one solid sphere where we are supplying heat, and body A of mass m is considered, and due to the supply of heat the temperature increases. Now say amount of the mass of the body is m, the change in temperature is delta theta, the material of the body we know, then surrounding condition the body is not exchanging any heat, then the amount of heat supplied which goes in increasing the temperature of the body is measured as Q equal to ms delta theta, where S is called the specific heat capacity of the substance and the SI unit is joule per kg per Kelvin, which is same as joule per kg per degree centigrade, or otherwise calorie per gram per Kelvin or calorie per gram per degree centigrade. These are the units where we specify the specific heat capacity. Then the definition states as S equal to Q over m delta theta. So we know that Q is the energy, unit of energy. It comes in the unit of energy. M is the mass, delta theta is the rise in temperature. Now when we set all mass and rise in temperature to one unity, then S equal to Q. That is specific heat or specific heat capacity is defined as the amount of heat energy which is needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of a substance by 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin. Okay. Let's talk about the molar heat capacity and water equivalent. The equation 2 states Q equal to Nc delta theta, where N is the number of mole and C is the molar heat capacity. That is, when number of mole is 1 and raise in temperature is 1 degree centigrade, then the amount of heat needed to raise the temperature of 1 mole of a substance by 1 degree centigrade is called the molar heat capacity of the substance. Like specific heat capacity, it is also a heat capacity which is molar. Next, heat capacity and water equivalent. Here we see that Q equal to ms delta theta, the term m into S. Overall, this term is known as heat capacity of the body, which is having the unit joule per Kelvin. Now let us consider the mass of water having the same heat capacity as that of a given body. Then that mass of water is called the water equivalent of the body. So when we do some calculation regarding this, we will be able to get it clearly. Next, let us see one arrangement to determine the specific heat capacity. So here, determination of specific heat capacity by Regnolds apparatus. So here we can see that 3 parameters are there. One is mass, one is specific heat, and then initial temperature. These things we know. Then we can see in the apparatus 1 calorimeter in the left hand corner of this picture, where we can see 1 calorimeter, which is a copper vessel mounted in a wooden box to isolate it from the surroundings. Then we can see 1 stirrer is written, then water is inside it. Then we can see the other half, that is right hand side of the picture, that is straight bar, right hand side of the straight bar. We can see steam input and steam output. Through A, steam is input, through B, steam is output. Then here, to measure the temperature, we have mounted 1 thermometer and 1 ball is hanging. That suspended ball of solid, we want to measure the specific heat capacity of that substance, which is having mass m1, specific heat s1, and temperature theta 1. Now what we will do is we will immerse the ball into the water of the calorimeter. Then heat will be transferred into the water of the calorimeter, which causes the rise of temperature of water to some other value theta 2. The initial temperature was something else and final temperature will be something else. During this process, heat will be lost and heat will be gained. So balancing these two, we will calculate the specific heat, as we can see in the next slide. Okay, I suggest you to go back to the previous slide and look the apparatus carefully. Then we can visualize this calculation. Okay, assuming no loss of heat to the surroundings, we have heat lost by the solid which is immersed into the liquid of the calorimeter is m1 s1 theta 1 minus theta. Then heat gained by the calorimeter and the stirrer is m2 s2 theta minus theta 2, and heat gained by the water will be m3 s3 theta minus theta 2. Here the respective mass of calorimeter, solid and water is m2, m1 and m3. Okay, so from the energy balance equation we can write the heat lost equal to heat gained, which is m1 s1 theta 1 minus theta equal to m2 s2 theta minus theta 2 plus m3 s3 theta minus theta 2. From here, rearranging the term, we can get s1 equal to m2 s2 plus m3 s3 whole bracket theta minus theta 2 divided by m1 theta 1 minus theta. Now we know the masses, and then we know the specific heat of the water and also the specific heat of the material of the calorimeter. Then we can know the specific heat of that substance which is immersed, that is solid ball, is S1. We can calculate that. And here for a specific case, we are taking water specific heat as S3 equal to 4186 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. Then material of the calorimeter, if it is copper, then specific heat would be 389 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. Then we can calculate S1 from there if we know the masses. Now second case, use another liquid instead of water. Now we want to measure the specific heat of the liquid, and we know the specific heat of the solid ball which is immersed. Then the solid should be denser than the liquid. So here one question is written, why solid should be denser than the liquid? The answer is pretty simple. If solid is not denser than the liquid, then it will float. It will float. And if solid is not immersed in the water, then if it is not immersed in the liquid, then the heat transfer will not be good enough to get these calculations. Then using the same procedure as above, we can write m1 s1 theta 1 minus theta. Same equation we can write. Then instead of measuring s1 as done in the previous case in equation 1, in equation 2 we are measuring s3, so which is given by this equation, and the other parameters given, other terms given, we can easily calculate s3. So okay, let's quickly summarize our lecture. So heat as an energy we have learned. Then we have learned about units of heat, where we talked about joule and calorie. Then principle of calorimetry, specific heat capacity, their definition, molar heat capacity definition. Then water equivalent, this is also a definition, but some calculation is also involved in it. Then determination of specific heat capacity. We have seen a specific case with Regnolds apparatus, and neat picture is written and some equations are written here. So those are very important to calculate those parameters like specific heat of unknown liquid or specific heat of unknown solid, like that. Okay, what we will do in our next class, we will see the calculation related to the phase transition, which is also very important in this chapter. And I suggest you to do some of the numericals by following our textbook HCB Physics. Okay, thank you.